What's up, explorers? It's so great to be back with you after a wild and crazy year. This week, our travels brought us to the beautiful sunny Southern California city of San Diego. Now, during a non-pandemic year, San Diego's Embarcadero is usually a busy cruise ship hub, hosting over 80 cruise ship calls and 300,000 passengers every year. But arguably one of the biggest draws of the Embarcadero is the USS Midway Museum, which in 2019 alone saw more than 1.3 million visitors. I can't wait to tell you all about it, so be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and ring the bell to get notified of all our future videos. It is the most visited historic naval ship museum in the world, hosting 700 private events annually and drawing in 16 million visitors since opening in 2004. A dedicated crew of nearly 750 volunteers donate approximately 275,000 hours every year. The USS Midway Museum is more than just an iconic landmark. It's a first-tier attraction and an asset to the San Diego community, according to ship historian Carl Zingheim. But before becoming a museum, the USS Midway served an unprecedented 47-year career for the United States Navy, during which it was the flagship for Carrier Division 1, now called Carrier Strike Group 1. Side note, since 2009, the USS Carl Vinson has been the flagship of Carrier Strike Group 1. The USS Midway was christened on March 20th, 1945, at the Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Newport News, Virginia. Hundreds of spectators, including civilians and servicemen, gathered together to witness the momentous occasion. During the ceremony, the ship's sponsor, Mrs. Bradford William Ripley Jr., proclaimed, "In the name of the United States, I christen thee Midway," while shattering a bottle of champagne against the ship's hull. This is a time-honored tradition and a great honor for a United States Navy sponsor, a role filled by a woman who was invited directly by the Secretary of the Navy. Given the time period, the ship's name was very intentional. Just 3 years prior, in 1942, the Battle of Midway resulted in the first defeat of the Imperial Japanese Navy in nearly 300 years. The ship was to be a sort of in-your-face to the greatest adversary of the United States at the time. Now, in researching the history of the Midway for this video, I found out that its builder, the Newport News Shipbuilding Company, is still the sole designer, builder, and refueler of U.S. Navy aircraft carriers to this day. The company was started by industrialist Collis P. Huntington, and while that name may not sound familiar, his nephew Henry Huntington might ring a bell. In my video about the creation of the Los Angeles Aqueduct, we discovered that Henry Huntington got rich off secret backroom real estate dealings when the city of Los Angeles annexed California's San Fernando Valley for water storage. Henry Huntington assumed leadership of the Newport News Company when Collis died, and even married his late uncle's wife. Yes, he married his aunt. This is referred to as an avunculate marriage, if you were curious. Oh, and the California cities of Huntington Beach and Huntington Park were both named after Henry. Anyway, back to the story. Officially commissioned 8 days after the end of World War II on September 10th, 1945, the USS Midway served her first 20 years of service relatively quietly in a non-combat role. The ship underwent a series of alterations to accommodate heavier aircraft as they were developed, including the addition of an angled flight deck, which drastically simplified aircraft recovery and deck movements. Tragedy nearly struck on June 23, 1951, when Commander George Chamberlain Duncan attempted to land his Grumman F-9F-5 Panther on the Midway during a training exercise. A downdraft caused Duncan to crash, sending his plane's fuselage rolling down the deck. Duncan miraculously survived the incident, though suffered burns. Fast forward to 1965, and the Midway is deployed on its first combat mission with airstrikes against North Vietnam. Two VF-21 McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom IIs from the Midway were credited with the first air kill of the Vietnam War after shooting down two MiG-17s. On October 5, 1973, the ship became the first aircraft carrier home-ported in a foreign country when it was moved to Yokosuka, Japan. With North Vietnam quickly overrunning South Vietnam, U.S. forces quickly carried out Operation Frequent Wind on April 29, 1975, a frantic two-day evacuation of 7,000 American civilians and at-risk Vietnamese from Saigon. During the evacuation, the Midway's commanding officer, Captain Larry Chambers, who happened to be the first African African American to command a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, gave the controversial order to push overboard approximately $10 million worth of UH-1 Huey helicopters so that escaping Vietnam Air Force Major Bong Lee could safely land his Cessna on the Midway. Captain Chambers' order ended up saving the lives of Bong Lee, his wife, and their 5 children, who most certainly would have perished had they crash-landed in the ocean. Captain Chambers had only been in command of the Midway for 5 short weeks when he gave the order to dump the helicopters overboard, an order he thought for sure would get him court-martialed. Chambers wasn't court-martialed, but was instead hailed a hero back home. When asked later why he made the controversial decision, Chambers simply replied, "Do what you think is right then, and face the consequences later." The Midway continued serving throughout the 1980s and received more retrofitting to improve its stability. These modifications actually worsened the ship's stability problems, and the Midway received the nickname Rock and Roll Carrier. When Saddam Hussein's forces invaded Kuwait on August 2, 1990, the Midway was called to its final combat mission to assist with Operation Desert Shield, Operation Imminent Thunder, and Operation Desert Storm. The ship was decommissioned soon after on April 11, 1992, and plans were made to donate it to the city of San Diego for use as a museum. The USS Midway has been serving its final mission as a naval museum since it was moored at San Diego's Embarcadero on January 10, 2004. When it opened to the public just 1 month later, attendance reached nearly 900,000 on opening day, double what was expected. So if your travels ever take you to Southern California, make sure to visit the USS Midway Museum to experience a piece of naval history for yourself. Thanks for watching, and remember to get out and explore.